Welcome to the RealTrending podcast, where we speak to the brightest minds in real estate about leadership, business growth, trends, and strategy. I'm your host, Tracey Velt. I'm the Senior Director of Data and Content for HW Media. And today I'd like to welcome two guests. First, we have Rich Hopen, a broker associate with Compass in New Jersey and co-founder of RealE, a startup that builds custom chatbots. Also, we have Susan Vanech. She is a broker associate with Susan Vanech Properties with Compass in Connecticut. So welcome, Rich and Susan.
Nice to be here.
Thank you.
So Rich, I found you because I was getting the AI daily brief, and I thought it was really, really interesting. So tell me a little bit about that newsletter and how it came about and some of your background, that you are obviously in real estate, but also very interested in the tech side.
Right. Well, I'll start with my background. So I'm a pretty atypical real estate broker. I started my career as a lawyer. I did that for many years. Then I jumped into commercial real estate. And then about 8 years ago, I made the transition to residential real estate. And then 2 years ago, joined Compass. And then after ChatGPT came out, I was just enamored with the technology. And then in May, I created this company to build chatbots. I teamed up with a software engineer. And in order to learn about AI, I started researching and then started sharing what I was learning in my daily newsletter.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating. There were some great tips in there for using ChatGPT for real estate, but not only that, it really talks about the overarching trend of AI and applications for it, even outside of real estate. So I thought that was really interesting. And Susan, why don't you give us a little background about yourself first, and then we'll go into, I have another question for you after that. So
Okay, fantastic. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. I come to real estate through an investment standpoint, where I began buying unique properties and investing in them, and then producing a product that a wider audience would appreciate. And through that led me to really developing a career as a real estate strategist, helping people make smart choices in real estate. And I've always thought of myself as a disruptor. I mean, really, since nursery school, I've been a disruptor. When I was told I needed to play dress up with the girls, but what I really wanted to do was play and build blocks with the boys. And so that's really where I knew that I'm a little bit different than everybody else, and always looking for a way to, find the next thing, and see also how that provides a service for my clients, as well as helps build business.
yeah, and this whole podcast is really about the practical use of ChatGPT and artificial intelligence in your real estate practice. And one of the things that you did is actually I got to look at my notes. I want to make sure I have this right. So you had a $9.5 million listing, and you have an AI butler, Mr. Carson. So tell me how that listing chatbot worked for you with this luxury property, and what you're using Mr. Carson for.
Great question. So I was thrilled when Rich approached me and said, "Hey, I've got this interesting idea," and knowing that I'm always thinking outside of the box of ways to present and market or position a property. And that's exactly what Mr. Carson has been able to do for us. It is providing another level of service to that potential end user. Most people are searching for their next home or something interesting and off hours. And this allows me to extend my expertise and information about this particular property at a time and a place where I can't physically be. So it just opens up the world of the reach, the breadth, and the scope of being able to really satisfy an individual in the moment of curiosity and quest for information.
And I mean, the chatbots have been around for a little while. So tell me what this one does maybe differently or better than, days of old. Obviously, technology continues to evolve. How specifically did it help you sell the listing? What type of information is it offering? How does it work?
For me, it was really important that the passion and the voice behind the listing wasn't lost. And that was always my fear with technology, is the elimination of that human factor. Compass is a high tech, high touch company. They've worked very hard to make sure that we're not losing that human factor. And really, a home is the most human place that we all exist authentically. And so, what Mr. Carson was able to offer is this ability to retain the humanness because of all of the content. And this is where Rich can really offer another level and layer of flavor here of how we were able to integrate Mr. Carson into presenting this property to the widest possible audience without losing the specific voice and passion that comes with the human connection between agent and buyer.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Tracy, if I can
Mhm.
interject. So
Yes.
when I presented this idea along with my partner to Susan and their co-listing agent, the immediate reaction was what I'm hearing over and over again: like, chatbots. I hate chatbots. I hate a night when I'm online shopping and I get a chatbot. I wish it would just go away. It's always trying to sell me. And we said, no, this is a different technology, and it can be educated or loaded with all the key data that you want. And it just so happens that the property that Susan and Rick are listing, that we're talking about, the subject property, is an incredibly interesting property, and with a really rich history. And it so happens that the owner of the property, which happens to be the co-listing agent, actually wrote a coffee table book about the property and the history. So we had just phenomenal data that we could feed into the chatbot to educate the chatbot. So, and then as far as the tone, that's kind of programming, and you can adjust it, which was very interesting. So at one end of the spectrum, you could have it just purely factual, spits out the facts, and it'll tend to sound kind of mechanical. At the other end of the spectrum, it can be very creative. The danger is it can start making stuff up, which you definitely don't want. So you kind of have to find that sweet spot. And when we built it, we had different versions and we kept testing it. And we kept testing the quality of the answers and retraining it until it was basically ready to launch.
So, and that's interesting because I think that's it's confusing for me. So I know it's confusing for others as well. And this is a question I have later on, but I think this is a really good question for right now, is that someone told me the other day that you have to realize that this is chat GPT or other kind of artificial intelligence applications. It's a conversation you're having with the chatbot to teach it what you want. So the prompts have to be, and you have to do them maybe multiple times until you actually get the right prompt that gives you what you're really looking for. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Okay, so there are two kind of pieces there. So first is how you educate the chatbot. So ChatGPT has been educated by OpenAI with all the data on the internet, up until 2021. What we're talking about with Susan is we have ChatGPT, which is kind of at a foundation level. And then on top of that, we have information about the property. So all that data was inputted. So that's part of the education process. Now, from a user standpoint, with prompts and the questions that they ask, the user needs to figure out what they need to say to get the answers that they're looking for, or to craft the question in the right way that they're satisfied with the answer.
Okay, and we'll get into more details about that later. Right now, I mean, obviously there's a lot of controversy there over ChatGPT. You've heard Elon Musk talk about the, necessary to have some controls on it before it's too late, although I think he just started an AI company as well, or he was part of the first one and now started
Right.
another one. So, talk to me a little bit about that and the possibilities for AI in real estate. And we'll start with you, Rich.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. It's hard to look at the news and not see someone take a position on AI. Well, last week it was Bill Gates. Before that, it was someone that was one of the creators of some of the early versions of AI. And it basically ranges from, this is amazingly advanced technology. It's going to solve huge macro issues. It's going to solve world poverty, climate change, huge advancements in medicine and education. And then the other end of the spectrum is we shouldn't unleash this thing. It's going to destroy, the human race. So, but one thing that everyone agrees with, it's a very advanced technology that's very powerful. So it's hard for me to really come up with any industry that's not going to be impacted in a major way. So as far as real estate, what we're talking about today is ChatGPT. So you have really kind of, and it's really early days. So you have a small percentage of agents that are kind of leaning into this tech, and they're using ChatGPT, and they're using it to generate content. And that would be listing descriptions, social media posts, emails, newsletters, that sort of thing. And then you have, and my guess is based on presentations I've given, maybe 5-10% of agents are using it for that. And that's going to change. And then you have a really small percentage of agents like Susan that are getting way ahead of that and saying, okay, where is this going? And she realized, okay, we have this powerful technology. How can I use this for my benefit with my products, which are listings? How can I use it with clients who are buyers? How can I use it for the group that she formed at Compass Coastal? There's all these applications, and that really involves having a custom chatbot. So there's lots of applications. So there's for listings. We're working with an agent who is a prolific writer. He has 400 blog posts about Miami, and a lot of them have terrific SEO, but he's not having dialogue with those readers. So we're creating chatbots for those high performing blog posts. So someone who's reading it can basically essentially converse with the agent. And also the chatbot can recommend, oh, you might want to check out this article, or, point to other sources. And of course, or reach out to the agent. So there's lots of applications, which I can kind of check those off later in the conversation.
Susan, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, what I love about what Rich pointed out is, that fear of technology taking over and eliminating the need for humans. Where I kind of leapfrogged over the chat GPT with writing narratives or descriptions or helping me in other ways in real estate, because those are the portions of what I'm doing that I personally enjoy. And I want to create the content to educate the butler. So kind of leapfrogging over the traditional or what's more exposed to the typical agent through chat GPT and using the AI butler is doing exactly what Rich just said, which the Miami agent that he's referring to, that's prolific in writing and has a ton of content, it's adding another level and layer of service to that end user and giving them the ability to engage and participate in a more human way, even though it's through the use of this artificial intelligence. And so, really merging and bridging what we each as humans contain within us, but having this bot that's able to communicate on our behalf when we're sleeping. Or doing other things or answering that same question again and again and again. It's again just adding another layer to what we can offer our clients at the end of the day.
So, yeah, if I can just kind of piggyback, one of the things that, a huge value to Susan, who is just a terrific marketer, is that she's using this to differentiate herself from the marketplace. I mean, if she goes onto a listing presentation of these, high-end homes, it's one agent after another that makes their pitch. And they could all be great agents and know the market and have great marketing material. But when Susan starts talking about AI and what she's done with her other property or other properties, no one's going to be able to compete with that. And then it'll be really powerful if Susan actually presents a, a, a version of that chatbot for that listing and then hands her phone or iPad over to the seller and say, yeah, pretend you're a buyer. It's 11 o'clock at night and you have questions about your house. I mean, that's powerful stuff. And Susan saw that months ago and said, that's what I want. And I want to be the first one there. And she is.
And I have a practical question about that. What's the time commitment in if you teach it for one listing and you want to do it for, 5 listings? What's the time commitment for that for the realtor, and what is involved in that, as far as
Right.
being a custom app?
So it's, it's really up to the agent.
Okay.
So it can be as simple as getting the information that's currently on the MLS and that's it. Or it could be an agent adding other material that's outside of the MLS into into the data. Um, Another thing that we've suggested with some agents is that they actually go through the house. And they don't have to physically go through the house, but they record as if they're giving a presentation to a prospective buyer. And that data would be incredibly valuable. And that also kind of captures the way the agent speaks. So it's really up to the agent how much, time they want to put in.
Tracy, if I can chime in
Yeah.
on that, because for me, it was exactly what I'm already doing as an agent. So the level of commitment or time and energy investment was really minimal because it's what I'm already doing. I'm already creating content around each of my properties. And in this particular case, being a 28-acre farm with 3 primary residences and 2 ponds, and there's a ton of content around just that. And when the owner and co-list agent also created this coffee table book, it was just a natural extension and really a gathering place of all of the information, almost like a holding tank. And we get to call him Mr. Carson.
Okay. So that makes sense. And also I would assume that you can put, local market data in there, or you could put neighborhood data in there so that, every listing you have in a specific neighborhood talks about the amenities of that community or something like that as well, correct?
Right. You can add whatever you want in there,
Yeah.
plus what's in ChatGPT.
Okay.
So someone can ask a question that may not be in material that the agent fed it, but it's just common knowledge to that area. And for a buyer out of town, that's valuable information.
And that kind of gets into my next question, which is kind of the legal and copyright ramifications or considerations that agents should have. I do know that there have been instances where ChatGPT maybe recommends some marketing language that goes against fair housing rules. Or so, Rich, why don't you talk to me a little bit about some of those considerations and best practices so that you could avoid issues like that?
Yeah. So as far as the Fair Housing Act rules, and it's, you have the federal rules and then you've got state rules. I mean, that's pretty easy to address when you're building a chatbot. It's just language. You just take that language and you tell the chatbot, don't discuss these things.
Yeah.
And there's a whole list of topics. Like if someone wants to ask about crime in a neighborhood, an agent won't talk about crime in the neighborhood. The agent will refer them to another source. So,
Right.
so, so that's easy. I mean, that data gets loaded in. But as far as your broader question about, um, you know, potential copyright issues, and really this is just like with any new technology, there's always going to be legal issues that come up. The existing laws will apply, and then there's areas, sort of new questions that come up where there isn't any clear legal guidance, and that'll just get resolved through the courts or through, legislation. Um, as far as copyright, I mean, that's kind of a morass of issues, and that's going to be years before that, gets worked through. I think general advice to any agent that's using this tool to write, it just kind of use good writing practices. Don't just cut and paste everything it says. Use the platform to enhance your writing, not replace your writing. And if something is, if there's, some material that's easily attributable to someone else well known, just, find out who the source is and cite them. Just kind of good writing practices.
Yeah. Are there any ways to do like checks and balances, like running it through a Grammarly or something like that for that reason?
Yeah. So, I mean, I write my blog post every day, and I have 2 editors. One is ChatGPT, and I'll say just check for grammar.
Okay.
And and it will check for grammar. And sometimes I'll say, just tell me what the issues are. Don't make the changes, or I'll say make the changes. So I'm in a pattern right now where I'm comfortable with it doing that. My
Okay.
next level editor is my wife. She's a phenomenal writer.
Yeah.
So, and she finds things that ChatGPT didn't have. But that's just for grammar. But as far as, good writing practices, um, you just want to make sure that that it writes in your tone of voice. I have this very specific style, and if I didn't give it guidance, it would just write as if, it was just like a corporate piece of literature, Or I tend to write kind of in an informal way. And then one time I said, write in an informal tone. And it was just like, it looked like, some drunken kids at a party. It was just like crazy. So I always have to check that. So I guess I'm cautioning agents that use this product is make sure you read it and make sure it sounds like you. Because if it doesn't, and you send it out to people who know you, they will know right away that you didn't write that. And especially now, people, they're kind of on high alert for ChatGPT generated content.
Yeah, absolutely. Susan, any best practices that you found in using your kind of listing chatbot?
Yeah, I mean, I think I need to echo what Rich said. It's really about already using your best practices in whatever kind of area of the presentation we're creating. So I also have a very particular voice, and that for me was critical to be captured through Mr. Carson and through all of the content that was put in there. We were able to produce that. I think it's just super important to remember that this is a tool; it's not a replacement. If you're asking it to correct your grammar, I believe it still needs another set of eyes because, again, like the there, and there, right? It all sounds the same. It's used differently. You need that human element to truly understand the point that you're trying to make, and whether it's touching or pushing up against fair housing, or it's just the style and tone within which you're trying to express yourself. It will always boil back to, is this really reflecting who I am, what I want to say, and how I want to say it? And we lean on it as a tool the same way that we used dictionaries in the past, those big fat anthologies of massive um, you know it's a tool, it's not a replacement.
And so that kind of leads to the prompts, like structuring your prompt so that, let's say you're using ChatGPT, you're using the open AI ChatGPT and not like a custom application, because I know there are a ton of custom applications out there now as well. But and maybe you'll have something to say about some of the ones that you recommend, um, other than your own, which is really so. But how do you structure the prompt to get what you want?
So, I mean, my experience is it depends what you want.
Yes.
So if I have a general research question, tell me about copyright law and fair use in copyright law, I'll just ask a broad question like that, and I'll get a lot of information. If I wanted to do something specific for me, then I need to give it a specific directive. So, like, for example, last winter, I was making a lot of YouTube videos based on blog posts that I was writing. So I would upload a blog post and then I would say, create a 5-minute script for a YouTube video, assume the audience is college educated, and open up the script with 3 questions that are kind of teaser questions to the video.
Okay.
Um, and it would write that. So that was very specific. I mean, you can go, I mean, there are so many videos now about, the best prompts for real estate agents. But it's really, there's no like sort of secret formula. I think it's just a matter of agents using it. And so unless you're using ChatGPT on a regular basis, you won't really kind of understand how to do it. And I also suggest for people, um, I suggest that people use it for business as well as personal life. And I would say my use is probably 50-50. I use it all the time, and my family members are starting to use it all the time. I mean, we're so programmed to go to Google and get a whole bunch of links and then kind of click through. It becomes very comfortable using this product where you ask a question and you just get an answer. And you can obviously ask follow-up questions. The other thing that I'd recommend is that people get the app for their phone. So that made a really big difference, and it's a great app. But I'll caution you: make sure when you go to whether it's iOS or Google or Android, make sure you get the app that is the official Open AI app, because there's a lot of other apps that who knows what they are. So make sure it's an official app, and it'll be rated really high. So, but it'll say specifically the Open AI app. So those are some thoughts.
Okay. Let's talk about a couple other prompts that agents can use for writing a listing description. I don't know, Susan, do you want to go into that or?
Sure. I mean, so what we've done in the past is done some copy and pasting, even of previous listing descriptions if a particular property has already been on there. But I want to emphasize that I don't use the chatbot for my listing descriptions,
Right.
specifically because I want my voice to be really authentic in my writing and have a very distinct writing style, especially as I'm describing properties. For me, it's all about the experience. Perhaps it's time for me to ask that of ChatGPT and say, please create a listing description based on all of this specific content, but use a lot of alliteration or very descriptive words in throughout. I don't have a great answer for your question because I don't use the ChatGPT as much as maybe other agents do, but it's this next level that truly excites me is having that service that I'm offering my clients, as opposed to how is it making my job easier. I'm really thinking about how is it serving my clients and end users.
Right. So I would suggest, Susan, you should give it a try. I would take some of your best listing descriptions, put it in ChatGPT, and I say, okay, for this listing description, please add or please change the bedroom count or whatever it is, and play around with it. I mean, you may find that your template can be improved a little
I will give it a try. Absolutely.
So, what are some other uses that real estate agents might not be thinking about because they're, right now everybody's talking about marketing. I know that, for example, you can outline a research paper, or you can, draw up a marketing plan or a business plan for your real estate company. Putting in your parameters, what you want to make and working backward from there. So talk to me about some of the other, maybe more business specific to applications for using it.
So one of the things that I use it, and not on a regular basis, but when I'm sort of pondering a big sort of question on the business front, it could be personal as well, but it's mostly business. I'll talk to it as if it's someone else in the room wanting to get feedback. And I'm always surprised at, the quality of the answers. And I'll have maybe a 15-minute conversation and I'll end up with something that's really, really valuable. So I kind of use it for brainstorming. A huge value is leveraging one piece of content to another platform. So as I was saying before, turning a blog post into a script for a YouTube, and then it could be from the script from a YouTube video to a YouTube short, to Instagram, whatever it is. And we're just talking text now, so it's not going to be long before you can do a lot with the video as well. The other thing that I hear from a lot of agents who are not prolific writers and don't like to write, um, but they know how to talk. I mean, I've never met an agent that doesn't love to talk. So whatever topic they're interested in, that might be a topic to sort of share with other people. They can just dictate that content. Just put on their phone, do a voice memo, and then there's ton of software out there that can just transcribe that audio, and then you can feed that into ChatGPT. And a lot of times the audio of what you're saying is far from the written product, but it'll do that work for you. It'll save a lot of time. So almost anyone can become a writer. Just talk and do that. So that's an idea.
I like it as that point of inspiration, right? So I don't work well with a blank slate. I renovate homes, I don't build new constructions. So that to me is a very similar parallel where if I were to walk into just a complete blank slate, whether it's writing a listing description or renovating a property or building a new, the difference between building new and renovating is that you have something to start with when you're renovating. You can find the flaws and the places to improve. And so if Chat GPT can give you that starting place, that foundation, that point of inspiration, then it's up to you as that individual to find your way to differentiate it, customize it, make it your unique voice. So I like it as that opportunity to give you that springboard, that starting place, and that point of inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing I wish that you could do, and maybe you can tell, maybe it can do this, and there's an app, is I wish that you could actually upload, let's say, graphs and have them repurpose the graph into like a little analysis of it and also a graphic of it. I think you could do the graphic of it. I just don't know that you could do the analysis. There are, maybe just talk to me about what are some of the apps out there that are real estate specific that you've seen that agents might want to look at.
So to answer your question about taking a graph and having the product understand it, I think there are some tools out there
Yeah.
that they're not readily available yet, but they will be very soon. So one
Yeah.
of the things that I've gotten out of writing this newsletter for, I guess, 2 months now is it's kind of amazing the progress that I've seen, almost like week to week. And the whole graph issue that goes to, so we had an agent in San Francisco that one of his most powerful marketing tools is his monthly market report. And a lot of agents produce monthly market reports. It's kind of like the same graphs, same charts all the time. And what I've been pondering is how do we take the underlying data of that, because all that's usually from MLS data. How do we take the underlying data, put that into a chatbot so that the audience, buyers and sellers, can ask the specific questions they have instead of going through the chart? And it may be as simple as, oh, I bought my house in 2015, November 2015. What's been the, appreciation rate in my town over that period of time? What can I expect to get? That kind of stuff. So that could happen. But as far as being able to just take images and make sense of it, we're pretty much there. I'm sure that the technology is available.
Is there a place to look for these apps, that are specific to real estate? Do you know of like a website that maybe has a list of them or, because I've seen some marketing ones. I know that like there's Plunk and Core.io and like several companies who are integrating artificial intelligence into their very specific systems. Plunk really does remodel data, market data. Core.io, I believe, is a recruiting software, so like or a program. So is there one place to find all this information?
I don't know of like a
Okay.
kind of the preeminent source for that. I
Yeah.
just don't know. I just kind of see pieces of press releases or articles about stuff that sort of come up every now and then, but I don't know if it's kind of the go-to source.
Okay. And what if anybody listening wants to subscribe to your email, which I want to say is not a promotional email, it's very informational, how would they do that?
The easiest way is to go to my company's website, and that's REALE.ai. Go to Really, and just right on the homepage, they can subscribe, and they can also see demos of Susan's listing and all the other listings and bots that we've done.
Okay. And then the last question I have is really what's on the horizon? What are you seeing and excited about that's trending more of like from a thought leadership perspective? And Rich, we'll start with you.
I think as far as kind of what the waters that Susan jumped in with the listing chatbot. Once users start getting comfortable with the chatbots and start inputting data, that data is going to be incredibly valuable to, let's say, a listing agent. So if people are going to that chatbot and are asking the same type of questions over and over again, that may inform Susan or the listing agent, oh, we need to talk about that in our marketing material. I mean, eventually, it may read that information and suggest revisions to the marketing material. When there are people that provide information, the chatbot, and really the technology is there now, the chatbot can not only relay what the users are asking, but it can actually profile the user. So there's like a high EQ sense with these advanced chatbots. So that would be cool for the agent to know. So the whole idea from an agent standpoint, what work can be done up front that'll make it easier for the agent and also qualify the prospect. So if you have a prospect that's asking a lot of questions in the chatbot, at some point, the chatbot says, oh, at what point do you think you're going to be buying? In the next month, whatever, the next 5 years. So we'll get information to kind of to help the agent. So there's that. I don't think this is going to be long before the data is integrated into the CRM system. So so there's a user that's asking a lot of questions and they're interested. That gets put into the CRM system. A message would be sent to a listing agent saying, okay, there's a user with this specific question. Would you like me to text, me being the chatbot, would you like me to text this message on your behalf to the user? So all the kind of stuff that Susan's dealing with and all agents are dealing with all day long, that you think, oh my God, it's the same repetitive tasks over and over again. Where can technology step in and free up an agent so they're not doing that mundane work?
Okay. And Susan, I'll let you get the last word. What are you excited about? Are you using it for any business planning or budgeting, or, what are some future uses that you're seeing that you'd like to use it for?
Well, there are two things that I'm excited about with this technology, and one is the scalability. For me, it's the scalability of the human factor, and I think that it's a beautiful contradiction there that this AI is making this process even more human for the user. Um, and I've always been one that's afraid of technology, but will be also the first to dive right into it. And then the one other component that I'm excited to see happen is something that Rich touched on earlier, which is the video and visual capacity that we can bring to AI. I learned a word called aphantasia, which means the inability to see with the mind's eye. And working with my clients, we realized that there's so many people that just do not have the ability to imagine what something can be or will be. I don't suffer from aphantasia. I've got the reverse problem. I don't know the name of it yet, but I'm very excited to see what the new technology can do to help help our end users experience a property visually and not having to rely on their own ability or inability to visualize something, really bringing a property to life and having that very human experience through technology.
So, and there was a lot of those tools. It's just amazing what's coming out. So there's been a lot of press about what Adobe is doing, for example. But just imagine, Susan's with a prospective buyer in a property, and the buyer's like, well, I don't know. What are we going to do with that wall? And Susan just types in the keyboard, okay, remove that window and put the wall there, or redesign it with this line of furniture, whatever. I mean, that's around the corner, and that'll be super valuable to buyers.
Yeah.
And
And I would say too, I know that there's been talk of it taking the place of an agent. To me, that's been a discussion for so many years. And the truth is that real estate is about relationships and your human relationships with the people that you're working with. So while a lot of these things can facilitate that relationship or are tools, they're not going to replace you either. And I assume you both agree with that.
Absolutely. Have never had a fear of being replaced by technology again, because what we do is the most intimate human thing, finding somebody where they're going to live, build memories, raise their families.
Right. And I mean, the beauty of technology is to free up the agent's time so they have more face time with clients and prospects. That's the exciting part.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rich and Susan, thank you so much for joining Real Trending. We appreciate all your insights on artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. Thanks so much.
Right. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.